Good seeing you.
Yep. So, different chair. Nice to meet you, sir. Tim Atkins.
I still have some furniture in your warehouse. Oh, it's got a little accumulating pile. We'll be getting that shortly, I promise.
No, not yet. Then I was going to ask to postpone Charles Street.
Okay. You good, I think? Okay. Charles is gonna be postponed.
Charles is going to be postponed? Okay.
Which one is that?
Do you want
Herbert's.
organized here? If I get under.
I don't see anyone. People against it. Like, either previous. No. Don't get me confused.
It's gonna be postponed. We like to say.
North Washington was postponed.
Yes.
Okay.
Sign the sheet when you get a chance. They can't make up their mind. Jeffrey has to vote.
All right, we're going to get underway. Good afternoon and welcome to Tuesday, August 4th, 2017, convening of the Baltimore City Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals. A few house rules before we get underway. First, if you have a cell phone, a pager, anything else that makes any sort of audible, electronically generated sound, anything that plays a ringtone, a chime, etc. We ask that at a minimum you please turn those devices to a vibrate only, if not off position. Similarly, to the extent that you need to have a conversation with someone, we ask that you please take that conversation outside of the double doors behind you. The reason for those rules is pretty simple and straightforward. There are a number of microphones which are all arrayed around us up here. Those microphones are not only for the purpose of amplification, but they're also for the purpose of recording these proceedings. They're also very sensitive. So cell phones, pagers, conversations, game consoles, etc., making noise from the gallery interfere not just with the general conduct of these proceedings, but also with the recording of these proceedings as well. Additionally, those of you who are forward of the wall above you, if you turn around, you'll see that there are 1, 2, 3 video cameras which are mounted on the wall up there behind you. And there are two video cameras which are mounted on the wall up here behind us. Those video cameras are live, and these proceedings are being streamed on the website for the city's cable access network, as well as being recorded for later broadcast on the city's cable access network and stored on the city's YouTube channels. So cell phones, pagers, and the like also interrupt that video recording process as well. We'll be voting at the end of the day, and you're certainly more than welcome to hang around and enjoy a civics lesson if you so choose. But if you've got other things to do on this, I guess it's now technically late summer, or maybe I guess it's technically maybe just still midsummer afternoon, that's quite understandable, and you can call into the zoning board office and find out how we ruled in your case. If you take out pen and paper, I'll read off the number for the zoning board office. That number is 410-396-4301. Again, 410-396-4301. You will, however, need to wait until you receive the formal written notice of the outcome of your case, which should be forthcoming in about 3 to 4 weeks, before you will be able to obtain your permit. We certainly ask that you please not build in the city of Baltimore without first obtaining all of your proper permits. If you haven't already done so, if you're here in opposition to any case today, we ask that you please sign in on our sign-in sheet, which is now being held up by Mr. French. The signing sheet allows us not only to know generally which cases have opposition, but also allows us to know who needs to receive those aforementioned written notices I just was talking about. Additionally, we do have some cases which will not be heard today. So to the extent that you are interested in those cases and you're here and you want to appear for when those cases will be heard, we need to know who you are and where to send you the notice of when the hearings in those cases will be going forward. The procedure for the cases today is the same as it will be for, or as it typically is for all of our cases. When your case is called, you'll come forward. The appellant will stand to our left or your right. The opposition, if any, will stand to our right or your left. Once everyone is up here, we'll get the parties and whatever witnesses they have all sworn in. And after we get the staff reports, if any, in those cases, we'll then be turning to the appellant, who'll be given the opportunity to present their case, present their arguments, documents, witnesses, et cetera, in support of their position, answer any questions which the board may have, and generally advise the board as to what it is that they're seeking. Once they've concluded with their presentation, we'll turn to the opposition, if any, who'll be given the opportunity to present their side of things, their documents, witnesses, et cetera, in support of their positions. Then, once the opposition is concluded, we'll turn back to the appellant, who'll be given the opportunity to respond to any points brought up by their opposition, and then to offer a closing statement. We won't be going back and forth, unnecessarily delaying things any longer than is necessary. We will generally be calling the cases today in the order in which they appear on our docket. This is after we first dispense with some preliminary issues. First, those of you who are familiar with our proceedings will note that there are fewer than all of the typical members who sit on the board. We only have 3 members today as opposed to 5. This presents some challenges in primarily just in cases which are contested. In order to hear those cases, we would need both sides to agree to proceed with just 3 members instead of 5. Now, if you're the appellant in that situation, it's kind of a tricky proposition because where ordinarily you need less than full board support in order for your application to be granted or your appeal to be granted, with only 3 board members, you need to have all of the board members then vote in favor of your appeal. So that's something to take into consideration. But if any of the parties would like to postpone any of those cases, just let us know and we can get you we'll get your postponement of record, and we'll try to get you out of here as quickly as we can, so you're not left sitting around for too long. However, there's no rush. Just let us know when you have decided what it is that you want to do. Next, we have some cases which have been postponed at this point. These cases will not be heard today. First, 2017-209, 1901 North Charles Street, Herbert Burgunder.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Mr. Burgunder.
We were not able to coordinate with everybody's vacation schedules, a meeting with the Neighborhood Association, so we could request a postponement
Okay.
that had to occur.
All right, so we'll get that of record. And 2017-209, 1901 North Charles Street is postponed. Take care. Have a good day. Next up, 2017-230, 4216 Shannon Drive. That case has been postponed. And one more as of now, 2017-267, 1743 North Washington Street. That case has been postponed until September the 12th. If you're here in reference to any of those cases, just please make sure that you signed in on the sign-in sheet so that we can send you the notice when those cases will be heard, as they will not be heard today. Next, we have one case where there's a posting issue, 2017-250, 7 South Curley Street, Frank Federico. All right, calling again, 2017-250, 7 South Curley Street, Frank Federico. No, okay, we'll skip that. And, all right, next are the cases which are on our consent agenda. Our consent agenda consists of cases where the zoning board staff has reviewed the files in these matters, and the board has concluded that we have sufficient information to approve these appeals on a consent basis. We're going to call all of the consent cases together as a group, and we ask that you try to stay in the order in which you're called. The first person will line up here. Everyone else will line up the dais, I guess, in front of the dais behind them. Once everyone is up here, we will get you all sworn in as a group, and we'll call each case in turn. And you'll be given the opportunity at that point to offer any additional information that you would like to have added to the record at that time. All right. First case on our consent agenda is 2017-8, 352 East 25th Street, Richard Dunn. The next will be 2017-165, 5800 Chemical Road, Joseph Woolman. And then 2017-208, 1500 Pressman Street, Marcia Nyack. The next will be 2017-218, 2320 Mayfield Avenue, Carlton Gilbert. – 2017-251, 1304 Andre Street, Mike Coster. And 2017-254, 1000 through 1016, and 1018 South Highland Avenue, Elisa Hertzmark. On that case, Ms. Hertzmark, were you able to speak with the gentleman?
You just had a few questions and we were able to.
Okay, great. Next, 2017-257, 3419 through 21, and 3433 Old Frederick Road, Isaac Uwaza. That will be 2017-260, 2401 West Belvedere Avenue, Carlton Gilbert. You got two of them, sir? Yes, sir. Okay. All right, 2017-262, 304 South Duncan Street, Kareem Harid. 2017-263, 1411 Battery Avenue, Ian Sipple. 2017-264, 3400 Royston Avenue, Megan Coy. Finally, 2017-265, 400 through 402 North Milton Avenue, Svetlana Menina. Okay. I'll ask all those who are intending to give testimony to raise their right hands and be sworn, please.
Do you all swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
Yes.
All right, calling the first case, 2017-8, 352 East 25th Street, Richard Dunn. Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
We have this as an application to use the premises for 4 dwelling units. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection. Thank you.
Okay. Were there any conditions being offered in this case, Mr. French?
In this case, no.
No? Okay.
We do have an agreement that was entered into between the appellant and the Charles Village Civic Association. And I have a copy of that in the record.
Okay. And Mr. Dunn, you've got an agreement in place with the community association?
correct.
That's correct. Okay. And all right, you said we already have it, right, Mr. Mr. Tanner?
Yes.
All right. And Mr. Dunn, was there anything you would like to have added to the record at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
so
Take
much.
care. Next, 2017-165, 5800 Chemical Road, Joseph Woolman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Afternoon, sir. We have this an application to continue to use as existing recyclable materials recovery facility. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this property is located in the critical area of the Chesapeake Bay. On that basis, the Department of Planning recommends approval of this application be subject to the condition that there will be no increased tonnage above the previously approved maximum or use of the property as or for solid or hazardous waste collection or disposal facilities, materials recovery facilities, waste disposal, except garbage, for landfill and land reclamation, and/or a recycling collection station, because these uses are prohibited in the Chesapeake Bay critical area in which this property is located, and to the condition that the applicant receive all permits required pursuant to the Chesapeake Bay critical area law and regulations in order to continue operation of the recyclable materials recovery facility. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Woolman, are those conditions stated by the planning department acceptable to the
I
plan?
believe they are. I just received the memo today, and that run-on sentence is fairly confusing in terms of various uses. I would put into the record a memorandum which includes a current and active MDE permit for the facility that has 16 pages of conditions in it, and we obviously are willing to accept those conditions. I believe the way Mr. French read the sentence that we are in agreement. There's a number of uses that are listed for landfill and land reclamation, which we do not operate on that property. So if that's the case, then yes, we are in agreement, and Mr. French just nodded for the record. So yes, we are in agreement with those conditions.
All right. Anything further besides your submission you'd like to have?
Nothing
added to the
further,
record
thank
this
you.
time? Sir?
Nothing further, thank you.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed the application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Take care.
Next up, 2017-208, 1500 Pressman Street, Marcia Nyack.
Hi.
Marcia. Pardon me for that, Ms. Nyack. We have this as an application to add, quote, chocolate shop / making, end quote, to multi-purpose neighborhood center. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection. Thank you.
Okay. And Ms. Nyack, was there anything further you would like to have added to the record at this time?
No, sir.
Okay. One question we had, was, Mr. Carter, do you have a question for this?
No.
No? Okay. I guess we don't have a question. All right. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Good luck. Take care. Next, 2017-218, 2320 Mayfield Avenue, Carlton Gilbert.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir. We have this as an application to install new rooftop telecommunications facility with 9 screened antennas on top of bell tower and equipment on church roof. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Yes, Planning Department reviewed this application, recommends approval subject to these conditions. Placement of antennas and related equipment must be approved by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation, which may require use of a stealth enclosure to ensure they are visually unobtrusive. This is because this property is a designated historic landmark in Baltimore City. The panel antennas, microwave antenna, and related equipment will remain mounted as illustrated in the plans and elevations submitted to and approved by planning, and the applicant will adequately mitigate any adverse effect specified in the report of the Historical and Architectural Preservation Division of the Department of Planning in accordance with that report's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and Mr. Gilbert, are those conditions stated by the planning department acceptable to you?
Yes, they are.
All right, and is there anything further you'd like to have added to the record at this time?
Nothing further.
All right. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve the appeal.
Thank you.
Good luck. You've got another one coming up, which is 2017-260, 2401 West Belvedere Avenue. We have this application. This is an application to add 9 antennas to existing rooftop telecommunications facility and indoor equipment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And Mr. French, anything from the planning department with respect to this appeal?
Planning Department recommends approval, subject to these conditions. Panel antennas, microwave antenna, and related equipment will remain mounted as illustrated in plans and elevations submitted to and approved by planning, and the applicant will adequately mitigate any adverse effect as specified in the report of the Historical and Architectural Preservation Division of the Department of Planning in accordance with that report's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Gilbert, are those conditions stated by the planning department acceptable?
Yes, they are.
All right. Anything further?
Nothing further.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve the appeal.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. All right. Next, 2017-251, 1304 Andre Street, Mike Coster.
Hang on a minute.
All right. Moving on to 2017-254, 1000 through 1016 and 1018 South Highland Avenue, Elisa Hertzmark. Afternoon, ma'am.
Afternoon.
We have this as an application to consolidate 1000 through 1016 with 1018 and to use as 140 child daycare center with 20 staff. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application and recommends approval, subject to the conditions that the applicant establishes a suitable passenger loading zone to serve the child care center, and, because this building is over 50 years old, that the Director of Planning approves an exemption for off-street parking in accordance with Section 16-601F of the zoning code. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Hertzmark, are those conditions stated by the planning department acceptable to your client?
Yes, they are.
All right. And is there anything further you would like to have added to the record at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay. The zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Good luck. Take care. Next, 2017-257, 3419 through 21 and 3433 Old Frederick Road, Isaac Iwaza. And
Herbert Burgunder on behalf of Mr. Bazana.
Afternoon again. Gentlemen, we have this as an application to consolidate 3419 through 21 with 3433 and use as 7 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Mr. French, anything for the planning board?
Yes, thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application and recommends approval of the application, subject to the condition the consolidation of the 2 lots known as 3419 to 21 Old Frederick Road and 3433 Old Frederick Road is recorded prior to issuance of the use and occupancy permit for 7 dwelling units on the site. Thank you.
All right. And Mr. Burgunder, are those conditions stated by the planning department acceptable to your client?
Yes.
All right. Anything further, gentlemen?
Nothing further.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed the application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve the appeal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Good luck. (2017-262) 304 South Duncan Street, Kareem Harid.
Yes.
Afternoon, sir. We have this as an application to construct a 2-story rear addition, 3rd floor addition with rear deck and 1st floor rear porch at this location. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
The planning department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hareed, anything further you'd like to have added to the record?
No, sir.
Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next, 2017-263, 1411 Battery Avenue, Ian Sipple. Okay. Moving on, 2017-264, 3400 Royston Avenue, Megan Coy.
Hi.
Afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, we have this an application to remove and replace a 6-foot-high fence in rear and portion of street side yards. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Mr. French, is there anything for the planning department?
Planning department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay. And Ms. Coy, anything further you would like to have added to the record this time?
No.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Great, thank you.
Good luck. And last, 2017-265, 400 through 402 North Milton Avenue, Svetlana Menina.
Hi.
Afternoon, ma'am. We have this an application to increase from 2 dwelling units to 4 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. French, is there anything for the planning department?
Planning department has reviewed this application, recommends approval of the application subject to the condition that any exemption from off-street parking requirements is approved by the Director of Planning as provided in the zoning code for a property that is more than 50 years old. Thank you.
So I need to file an application for exemption? Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Separately.
Okay. That condition is acceptable to you?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything further you'd like to have added to the record at this time?
Well, last week I was told in the review process that I need to make one of the units accessible. So I don't know if a special permission is required to build a handicap ramp on the city's sidewalk.
Yes.
Yeah, you'd need a minor privilege in order to do that.
Can we do that as part of this hearing, or?
Is that not as part of this particular hearing? You would need to separately pursue that. Is the handicap ramp indicated on your?
Not on my plans currently, because they just, the reviewer who reviewed the structural plans just notified me last week.
Okay.
It's all in the public right-of-way. So it's strictly a minor privilege process
Okay, so it wouldn't be,
for the handicap
we
ramp.
wouldn't need another hearing like this.
No, because
Not
it's
here.
not within the boundary of the property itself. We did note that this building's basically a shell right now. It's gutted and you're squaring off the rear, so there's, I think,
Yeah, I have pictures.
and you are providing 3 parking spaces.
That was the plan, according to the plan I submitted, but now with the handicap requirement, I'm not sure if we'll have to
Okay. So
have just 2 parking spaces on 1 handicap ramp, or if we can do handicap ramps on the front of the property.
Okay.
Okay. And Mr. French, I would imagine that the handicap ramp would be addressed as part of the TAP process, correct?
The planning department's review of the parking requirement, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. So it will get addressed as you kind of go down the line.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal. Good luck.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay. And now we'll address the remainder of our docket, which will include cases for which opposition is signed in. And frequently we found that opposition is a result of either a lack of communication or a miscommunication among the parties. And it can be useful to offer the parties an opportunity to have a dialogue between themselves to see if they can resolve whatever differences they have between them. Obviously, if there are 2 parties engaged in a dispute and they come to the board and ask the board to resolve that dispute, one of those 2 parties is bound to go away disappointed with the result. And so this is your opportunity to avoid that unhappy fate. I'm going to call off the cases where opposition is signed in, and you can just stand where you are. We'll ask if there have been any discussions between the parties, and if the parties would like to either continue discussions or would like to have a discussion. If you would like to have a discussion, you can just step out the double doors to your rear, and then just let us know if you got something worked out. And if not, you can just come back in, have a seat, and we'll call you in turn. Additionally, this will be the time also to let us know if all parties agree to proceed with just 3 board members, or if they would like to postpone for today until the board meets again and has an opening in its schedule, so that there are 5 board members instead of 3. And I think that there is only one case which has opposition. This is 2017-252, 500 through 502 South Wolf Street, Pedro Silva. Okay, and who signed in this case? I think that there are a number of folks. Okay, and have there been discussions amongst the parties?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Would you like to continue to talk today, or no?
Well, we've been in the community meeting with all of them, and we put what we wanted to do, and we just wanted to come see it. We haven't talked to each other since then.
Okay, all right. And folks, have there? Okay.
And I need to update the drawing of what we wanted to do. There is that we have an application, but we wanted to
Can you
update.
identify yourself, please,
My
ma'am?
name is Yana Silva,
Okay.
Pedro Silva.
Okay.
husband and wife.
Yes. All right. Now you have an updated drawing you'd like to submit, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. We can have this incorporated into the record. If you have any other copies, please distribute that as well. Now, your opposition is objected to proceeding with just 3 board members as opposed to 5. So that sort of, I guess that makes us unable to proceed because we need consent from all parties to agree to proceed with just 3 board members. What we will do, however, is take your updated drawing, and if anyone would like to receive a copy of that, just please let us know. You can just indicate your email address where you signed in on the sign-in sheet so that we can distribute that to you. But for today, we won't be able to hear the case, and we will try to fit you in on the next opening in our schedule. Mr. Tanner, do you know what we look like 2 and 4 weeks out?
I believe we can make arrangements to fit them in. I'm not sure about the 15th. That's a pretty crowded docket, but the next one should be fine.
Okay.
The date of the next one, if I may.
29th.
29th.
Yeah.
That's fine.
No.
No, of August.
We meet every 2 weeks, so the next is the 15th, and
Is that a Monday? If
That's a Tuesday.
Tuesday.
they're all Tuesdays.
Tuesdays.
Tuesday, the 15th?
No,
Yes.
no, Tuesday the 29th.
Oh,
Yes.
Tuesday, okay.
So we have
Well,
2 weeks from now, we have the 15th.
Here on the 15th.
And then 2 weeks after that is the 29th. So those are the 2 soonest dates. And I guess there are folks with the opposition who are saying that the 15th isn't a good date, but the 29th is the better date.
Good with either date.
I would prefer not the 29th, one later, because that's like my time of the
Ma'am, we don't have your name for the record.
Oh, Deborah Tempera,
But how do you spell that last name, ma'am?
Tempera.
Okay. Well, Does the applicant have a preference? Are you able to do?
Would be better if, as soon as possible, we can, the 15th would be okay with us. So that way we can, have our lawyer here with us, so, is it an option?
It's possible. I have to really look at the docket and see what we can do to fit you in. If we can, we will.
Okay.
And your side is asking for the,
20,
no, you're asking for a postponement because there's only 3 of us. There will be 5 of us here on the 15th.
just I have other prior obligations, the 29th would be better for me, but, and Mr. Tanner said the docket is full, so,
We will try to accommodate everybody if we
Okay.
can.
all right.
And that
I
way give us-
recommend that both sides look at the record, look at all the letters we've received and the issues that have been raised, and hopefully you can address them.
Absolutely. Like we say at the community meeting, we are very open to accommodate, and we're not there to just make any noises, nothing like that. And what we apply for the license, the live entertaining license, is because we have a jukebox and some customers like to dance.
Okay, ma'am, we're not here to hear the merits of it.
But I just wanted to let you know that we were there. to
Okay,
explain.
well, one of the benefits of not proceeding today is, given that there are some folks in the opposition who have said that they haven't met with you, so I guess maybe they weren't at the community meeting that you're talking about. It would also be, I guess you can make use of the time between now and when the case is heard to speak with everyone who's here, because maybe they haven't heard from you before. So, and it may have just simply been a simple matter of they weren't available at the community meeting, and so they missed that opportunity to hear from you. But in any event, you can all, I guess, try to see if you can have a discussion in the meantime, and Mr. Tanner will be in touch regarding scheduling. All right? Okay, and
I'm sorry. With regards to...
sir, you need to identify your name first.
My name is Andrew Dowell. My question is, it was mentioned, I guess, before the meeting started, that we could get on a list and be notified of the next hearing.
Yes, sir.
The sign-in sheet that you signed in on? Yes. And I was saying earlier that anyone who wanted to receive a copy of the updated drawing that's been submitted by the applicant, just make sure that your email is indicated there, so that way we can email it out to you. Or alternatively, if you don't want to do that, you can just stop by the zoning board office and look at it there.
And we will be notified as an email or as a letter of the date.
Since you're the applicant, we'll probably give you a call.
Okay.
Is that preferable?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, and let me find this case, just a moment. All right, 2017-252, 500 through 502 South Wolf Street is postponed. All right, thank you all. All right, calling 2017-246, 3537 West Belvedere Avenue, Lenora Holmes.
How you doing?
Afternoon, ma'am. All right, you're Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Holmes, we have this as an application to use the premises as a hair salon and clothing store. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Ma'am, if you were to raise your right hand, give me sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
Yes.
All right. And do we have staff reports?
Just one from planners.
Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this property is contained in the Park Heights Urban Renewal Plan area. That urban renewal plan does not prohibit or restrict this proposed use. And the building itself is the type of building that would be appropriate for this neighborhood commercial establishment use. The department therefore recommends approval of the application. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ma'am, why don't you tell us a bit about what your plans are for the property?
The first floor, I'm gonna make a boutique jewelry, sell hair, stuff like that, and upstairs, I'm gonna do a hair salon.
First floor.
Okay. And what is there currently?
Right now, it's nothing.
Okay.
It used to be a store back a couple years ago.
Okay. And do you know what kind of store it was?
They said a candy store. Planning did. They said a candy store.
All right. And is the whole store, is the whole building the store? Only part of the building? Sort of describe the layout of it?
Well, my understanding, the bottom floor was the store, and someone lived upstairs.
Okay, so there was a residence that was upstairs, and the store was downstairs?
Yes.
All right, and you're proposing to use just the first floor?
It's a boutique, and upstairs is a hair salon.
Okay. So are they going to be two separate stores, or are they going to be like the same, but with?
The same,
Okay.
but a different entrance, because I have a side door on the side. So the hair salon, they can walk upstairs to, and the boutique is in the front.
Okay, so if you just want to go to the boutique, you go in the front entrance. If you want
Yes.
to go to the hair salon, you go in the side entrance. that
Yes.
goes upstairs. Is there like an interior door at all between the two?
What you mean?
So can you walk from the first floor up to the second floor?
Oh, no.
All within? No. Okay, so you have to go outside?
Yes.
Okay. And this is the floor plan, I guess you submitted?
Yes.
Okay. All right, are there any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, next, 2017-249, 746 North Fulton Avenue, Robert Campbell.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir. All right, we have this as an application to use the first floor rear as a delicatessen and bakery, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
Okay. If all those intending to give testimony can raise their right hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and
Yes.
Okay. And do we have staff reports?
Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this property is located in the Harlem Park Urban Renewal Plan area. The Urban Renewal Plan does not prohibit or restrict this proposed use. This would be a neighborhood commercial establishment, and specifically what the zoning code terms a retail goods establishment, and the department has no objection to the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, sir, why don't you tell us about what you're proposing here?
We're proposing a deli and bakery type environment there, where it won't be a sit down. It was, you buy, you come and go. And the idea came from the neighborhood actually, because I go back to 1975 when I first came into the neighborhood. I came there because they didn't have the current grocery store was closing down. And then according to the neighbors, I went on in and got it open again and developed a good working relationship with the neighborhood. And since then, since 1975, I've made the neighborhood come to me and request. They had a laundromat that was closing down. I revived it and and we put a brand new laundromat up there. In addition to that, the neighbors came to me to put a beauty salon there. And we had a beauty salon and a barber shop. It didn't, the people that was running it didn't last long. But my concept is that most of the things that I did in this neighborhood, it's been because of what the neighborhood requested of me. And the neighborhood came to me because we had no way of eating around in that area. They had to go so far, and so they came to me and asked me would I try to solve that problem, and I thought I would by putting up a deli.
Okay. And can you describe for me the layout of the building currently?
Yes, we had on file the plans, and what happened was we got postponed early on this year. And when I went and filed again, when I went down to zoning to leave the paperwork for where you have to put the sign back in the window again, and I was told that they pulled my old file and they said that they could probably use the old file. So I was under the impression that because it was a postponement, the old files would follow this. We had supported the neighborhood associations, 2 or 3 of them. They were here with us before.
The reason for that was technical. Under the old code, it was considered a non-conforming use, and there were some issues about the legal status of that. And it was better for you to postpone that case and then refile under the new
Right.
code
But
that is now in place. The drawings are fine from the old code to use for the new one.
Mr.
It's
Danner, was there
basically
a
the
posting requirement for this new hearing? Was there a posting requirement for this new hearing, or was that?
No, it did have to be reposted. It was a whole new case. So it was, I believe.
yeah, it was reposted. We reposted, yes.
The aerial photograph
This is a copy
from
of the
the previous
reposted.
file shows the rear portion that's involved with this application. It's from the side view. You can see the front is an existing grocery store. Is that correct?
No,
So there's nothing in the front at this time?
no.
So that's still a vacant space, but you're only going into the rear portion of the building?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a front portion, which is, I guess, where the former grocery store used to be?
No, yeah, it was a variety store.
Okay. And that's all empty now, presumably?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's the rear portion of the first floor, which is where your use is going to go?
Yes.
Okay. And then how about the rest of the building? Sort of, what's the layout of it?
The rest of the building, up over top of it, is apartment.
Okay.
And it's well secured, because what we had to do when we put in, when we requested the lunchroom, actually, before we had the lunchroom, my wife had a recovery house, and she was actually feeding all of the people out of their kitchen. And then they would go in the front of the building, and that's where they would eat. But then she moved out of the facility, and that's when I decided to change the facility over to a restaurant, because so many neighbors had asked me to do so. And so what the fire department made us do, we put in a system where, the alarm all over the building, and we had to put in that system, that draws all the, I can't even think of the word. The system.
It's just a fire, a system that the fire department requested us to do.
Ventilation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the bottom.
Oh, you mean like the
Like
the
a
ventilation
like the
fan
drawer.
and the
Yeah.
exhaust hood?
The exhaust system, that's what I couldn't say. Exhaust system, yeah.
Okay. And if you both are going to be speaking, sir, you could move over to your left, and ma'am, so that way you can use that microphone there. just so that, because they can't always pick up the, when you're talking, they can't always pick it up on the microphone. All right. So you said above the first floor there are apartments?
Yes.
And are those apartments occupied or are they unoccupied too? No?
They're occupied.
They're occupied, okay.
And it's just one.
All right.
It's not it's just one.
Okay, so it's just one.
Mhm.
All right. All right, I think that's pretty much it. Anything further?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, ma'am, can I get your name for the record?
Leela Campbell,
How do you spell your first name?
Lela.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reporter. Okay. Appeal number 2017-256, 212 East Ford Avenue, Travis Lockman. Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Bro, good seeing you. All right, gentlemen, we have this as an application to demolish the existing structure and construct a 4-story single-family dwelling with second and third floor decks with first floor street corner side garage. Is that correct?
Not entirely. As some of you may know, the building has already come down, and we'll get into that. So it's to construct a new single-family dwelling at the site.
Okay. All right, if you can raise your right hand to be sworn, please.
You swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
Yes.
All right. And do we have staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Mr. Prettle.
Sure. Well, first of all, good afternoon. Nate Prettle, AB Associates. The current proposal is to construct essentially a full 3-story building with a partial 4th floor and parking off the side alley street, being Durst Street. And before I get into some of the specifics, I think it's important to consider this application in context of some of the recent history of the property, which I'm going to have Mr. Lockman here from Charm City Builders explain before I get into what we're asking for today.
Good afternoon. This is Travis Lockman. I'm with Charm City Builders, as Nate mentioned. And so this house, as I think a lot of you guys probably know at this point, we were constructing it as a 3-story renovation with a basement. During the excavation, we had a considerable amount of rain. We did pull building permits. We had our underpinning permit and our stamped letters from our engineer. So we went through all the proper channels, and we have some paperwork here to attest to that. But essentially, the home was condemned, emergency demolished, and that's kind of where we are now.
Sure. So, as Mr. Lockman explained, this was originally a renovation project that, again, he received building permits. At the time, this property was actually zoned B2. This was prior to Transform Baltimore taking effect. After they pulled building permits, they started construction. I believe they braced some of the sidewalls. There was a very strong storm with a lot of heavy rain, which eventually ended up getting into the site and causing a partial collapse of the sidewall. It was not only due to what is happening on the site, but to the conditions of the street and a storm main, which is in the middle of Durst Street. And I think the sidewalk had already started collapsing. So it wasn't solely issues that were on the property. It was really the surrounding conditions. The city condemned the property and asked for an emergency demolition. So the property was demolished. There was also some damage done to the property next door. It's not really relevant to today's hearing. So, and that brought us to the situation we have here. Ideally, none of this would have happened. We wouldn't even be in front of you. They would have had building permits, and the property would probably be complete by now. Absent, but it did happen. And so today, the proposal in front of you is essentially identical to what they had already had permitted, other than the fact that they can no longer put a basement in. So the square footage that would have been in the basement is now on the roof. The property is now zoned R8 and requires a height variance. We're asking for 39 feet, and I'll mention it's set 15 feet back from the front lot line. And it's also, frankly, lower than almost every new construction townhouse in the immediate area. I can point to one at, I think, 124 East Fort Avenue, one block to the west, about 5 or 6 blocks to the west at Fort and Race. There was 15 townhouses approved by this board that were, I think 43 feet. And so, we feel this is the minimum variance necessary. Feel the conditions that led to the collapse and demolition of the property present, a hardship in every sense of the word for my client. The property is unique due to the vacant status right now, the vacant lot. It's the only vacant lot in the immediate area. And, had this not happened, the project would have already been completed. And this is nearly identical in square footage. We're providing parking on the first floor, which is also part of the reason that they have to go out. They're losing livable square footage on the first floor. So, I'll leave you with that. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'll also submit this letter from NW2 Engineers, which sort of details what happened during the collapse of the previous property. And I also mentioned that Mr. Lockman, as well as Councilman Costello, have been in contact with many of the adjacent neighbors who had some concerns, not so much about this proposal, more so the effects of construction on the property. I think people were blocking, some of the trucks were blocking Durst Street. Councilman Costello's worked to get them a permit to park, their long-term parking permit on Fort Avenue, so they don't have to block the alley anymore. And again, this is an unfortunate situation. However, we believe that this is an appropriate solution, and we think it's going to be a welcome addition to the neighborhood.
Okay, and if I got this correct, you've got drawing showing 4 floors. The 4th floor consists of a partial 4th floor addition, inclusive of a wet bar, den, and a rooftop deck off the back.
That's correct.
And a building height of 38. I guess from the front, it's 39 feet and 1 inch. From the rear, it measures to 38 feet 6 inches.
That's correct. And I think it's important to note that this 39-foot height is set back 15 feet from the front lot line. Therefore, it's not visible if you're walking down Fort Avenue. And if this were, if we would have asked for this under the old zoning code, there was no height restriction. It was governed by floor area ratio, now that it's been rezoned to R8. So, if this unfortunate circumstance would have happened 6 months prior, we would not be asking for a height variance. And, I think all these things taken into account absolutely present a unique situation and a practical difficulty and a hardship for reasons being to grant these variances we're asking for. The structure is very similar, other than the 4th floor, to what the previous structure was. I mean, that one went to the rear lot lines. We're asking for a lot area variance and a lot coverage. However, those are, almost identical to what was there before, prior to the collapse and demolition.
See that you show a garage here, where the entrance is on the side, but the car would be parked, or the vehicle would be parked within the garage, parallel to the adjoining side street. So that would be a pretty tight turn there. Do you know how wide Durst Street is?
I can pull it up. I have a block plat here, but maybe in the meantime, I'll let Mr. Lockman explain a little bit how that parking arrangement will end up working.
Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, so the garage door is 16 feet wide. So I do think we've got enough room coming in from Durst, even if you've got to make like a few turns to swing around. Like, I think that's essentially what's going to happen here in order to load the car this way. But I think Durst, it's a small one-way street.
It's probably roughly 20 feet wide of drive aisle. Again, so part of the sidewalk is collapsed, so I can't give you an exact width of Durst Street. But it's typical of an alley street that you'll find anywhere in South and Southeast Baltimore.
I think on your drawing you got it as, would this be Durst right here?
Yes.
Okay, so that's, you got it shown as a 15-foot
That's-
right-of-way.
That's probably correct. Again, as Mr. Lockman testified, the 16 feet, the extra wide garage doors, what will allow them to essentially parallel park in that space.
All right. And the height variance you're looking for here is?
Roughly 4 feet 1 inch.
Okay, and
Reiterate is the minimum necessary variance for this, and far less than many have been granted or at least requested on similar properties in the absolute immediate area.
Okay, and the hardship would be what?
The hardship is due to circumstances that were out of their control that led to the demolition and collapse of the building, which were the street conditions. We have never been in this situation asking for any of these variances had that not happened. They had building permits, they were under construction, and it was actually a city demolition crew for emergency demolition that ended up coming and knocking down the building. So that's, our hardship. It's no cause by the owner of the building, and it wasn't the ideal situation, but it's what happened, and it's led us to, they've lost a significant amount of time and effort and resources dealing with this, and really we wanted to have something that could at least replicate what their plans were before, and we're not able to do that with the basement anymore because of some of the water conditions.
Okay. All right.
Great, thank you.
Any questions? No. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Don't go far.
Barry's gonna handle this.
All right. 2017-258, 1190 through 1192 West Northern Parkway. Al Berry.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon, Mr. Berry.
We have some amendments to discuss, and then we can talk about a procedure that you're...
Okay, we can get into that in a moment.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Berry, we have this as an application to install 2 new residential identification signs on the existing multifamily dwelling. I guess that's the part that you're saying needs to be amended?
That's right.
Okay, we'll get into that in a moment. All right, if all those intending to give testimony can raise their right hands and be sworn, please.
You swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
I do.
I do.
Do we have staff reports?
Yes, first we have a letter from the Board of the North Roland Park Improvement Association. They write that they have voted to oppose the request for variance. Their concerns is the illumination of the signs on the sides of the Falls Road Roland Park building. The illuminated signs should be designed to have minimal impact on the surrounding residential community. And then we have planning's report.
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed the original application, which, as you heard, Mr. Barry is going to be presenting amendments to, and had recommended disapproval of that original application because of the amount of sign variance that would be required, among other things. Since this memo was prepared and presented to the board, this amendment has been offered, and the Planning Department is withdrawing that memorandum and is indicating at this point we will have no opposition to this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Berry.
Okay. Let me first pass out to the board members pictures of the existing condition of the apartment building and a rendering of the proposal. This was filed basically to replace an existing sign on Belvedere Towers. The Belvedere Towers building was built in 1963 or 64. It's now owned by my client, Blue Ocean. Ethan Fry, who was with Blue Ocean, is going to be testifying as to sort of an overall plan for upgrading of the building. They bought the building in approximately June of 2016 under the old zoning code. The old zoning code, actually, for this building, allowed us a sign of 36 square feet and with no height limit. In the course of Transform Baltimore, it was some discussion between the city council, the neighborhood, and ourselves as to whether it was going to remain an R9 building or whether it would be R6 or R8. It ended up as a compromise, so it's R8. Also, Transform Baltimore, for some reason, which we'll go into with the planning department, adopted a set of sign regulations for signs on residential buildings, which are the same for a single-family district as they are for a multifamily district of R10, without regard to the size of the building, the density, or anything. And these sign restrictions are, in my opinion, overly restrictive, and they put height limits, neither of which would apply to this building. When the sign was proposed, and still is proposed, there are several factors that need to be discussed by the board, as your staff report points out. One of them is the number of signs, one of them is the size, and one of them is the illumination issue. The neighborhood's position, who we have a very close relationship with, North Roland Park, has basically told us today that they were not opposing the size of the sign or the location, they were opposing the illumination. And what we had proposed to them and we're proposing to you as an amendment is the original proposal was to have signs on both sides of the building. This is the south-facing sign facing essentially Northern Parkway. The building is addressed on Northern Parkway. And there's a sign, there is a wall, similar blank wall to the north that faces north. We're going to eliminate that sign as unnecessary. So you'll be looking at a sign request essentially to replace this sign with a smaller sign, which you can see in your rendering. And I think there's been some confusion, perhaps because of the drawings, as to the actual square footage of the sign. And what I mean by that is that planning, I think even your staff initially calculated the sign based on an area that was much larger than actually exists. And what I mean by that is that if you look at the rendering, there's some metalwork that is being added, architectural metalwork, which has already been permitted by the city and is independent of the sign. And Mr. Fry is going to go into the needs for that and as part of an overall $6 million investment in the building. So that metalwork it's under construction. It will be finished shortly and is really independent of the sign. The sign was designed as independent letters that sit on that architectural metalwork. And those letters, when you add up the square footage, comes to approximately 37, almost 38 square feet. So our proposal today was to eliminate the one sign, the sign on the north side of the building, and in deference to the North Roland Park Association, propose to have you approve the sign itself, but without any illumination. We would like to, in the next 2 weeks, come before the North Roland Park Association board with our lighting team and basically explain to them the different ways that this could be lit. The current sign has some very harsh spotlights that create a lot of glare on the existing sign, and that's what they were objecting to. And we believe that the LED signs that were proposed for interior to the letters is something that could be modulated and reduced as necessary, or additional lights that could just accentuate the sign without having as much illumination. But we'd like the indulgence of having the board approve this sign in its location and size as frankly a replacement to a non-conforming sign, which you have the ability to do under Transform Baltimore. You certainly had the ability to do it under the old zoning code when this was bought and began to be designed. Unfortunately, it wasn't finished by the time, we would have applied for it before June 5th, but we didn't get to that point. So it is under Transform, but we think as a replacement of a non-conforming sign, it's not going to increase illumination. It is not going to increase the size. The existing size of the sign is about 240 square feet. This is about 38 square feet. So it's a reduction from that standpoint. We can, this is also a, if you don't have that, that's a comparison of the metalwork in the sign with the individual letters as well as the blocking of the existing sign. I like that just briefly, because I know it's going to be maybe a short day for you anyway, but Mr. Fry, talk about the overall investment in the property, which is, as you can see on the sign, renamed the building and is being rebranded, and it's a quite substantial investment in the apartment building.
Mr. Fry, before you start, Mr. Berry, have you had any opposition from the Roland Park North Association?
No, that's the Roland Park. I think the letter's from Roland Park North. Well, the letter is
Well, I
objects
want to
to
be
the
very
lighting.
careful about the names here.
Yes, no, it's the Roland Park North Association, and there are two associations that are adjacent to this.
The reason I'm asking, I serve on the board of one of those, and I want to make sure I don't have a conflict here. I'm on Roland Park North.
Are you on Roland Park North, or the apartment, the condominium project?
We're in the townhouse.
The townhouse. No, there's been no discussion with it.
Okay.
North Roland Park is the associate.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson and board members.
If you can use the microphone, sir.
Sorry. Thank you for indulging us today as we present our petition. As Mr. Berry told you, that we have been owners of the property for almost a year. What drew us to the project was its prominent location, being very visible. Anybody who's lived in Baltimore has driven past it at one point. Everybody who works or toured the property has known somebody who's lived in the property and remembers when their grandmother or friends had lived there. The property being in a wonderful location and serving a very important population, being one of the only elevator buildings in the area, was very worn down and had a lot of finishes and aesthetics that were becoming rapidly obsolete. And as such, we felt that this would be a very good opportunity to infuse resources to create a really stark change in the building's aesthetics and how people experience it. As such, we have a multi-million-dollar renovation. I have some photos here of the interiors of what they are becoming and what they're looking like. If I could, I'll start just by sharing those with you, so you have an understanding that we wanted to keep. This is the entrance to the building and the lobby and the rental office. We have the a seating area on one side, and these are hallways. Everything here, new flooring, new lighting, new wall treatments, all convey a very aesthetically clean, contemporary but not too modern and warm environment. We also performed almost $70,000 of landscaping, planted hundreds of new bushes, dozens of new trees. We are removing the very large light poles that currently service the driveway and the parking area, and replacing them with residential-sized 14-foot acorn-topped poles to convey more of an intimate lighting pattern and experience for people who are going to be using the building. The facade was the big giant wall that everybody knew and interacted with as either potential residents, and people who are just driving by, because that is the main access to the front of the building. And our challenge was we wanted to do something that really sent the message that this is something different, something exceptional. And in doing so, we decided that we were going to spend a significant amount of money, $300,000 to $400,000, in creating just one facade element, which was designed by somebody who is more of an artist than just an architect. So we found a company, a local company named Jans Design. Ronnie Jans is the principal there. Some of the organizations and notable organizations that they've served, they've worked on the environmental design for Terrapin Row, Remington Row, Open Works. They've worked with Preservation Maryland, Arts Walk, McHenry Row, and Adore Open Baltimore, all on brand identity and environmental design. And we felt that they really understood how the aesthetics of a design needs to interact with the local setting and how people experience it. And we were very excited when they delivered one of many designs. They delivered the design that's before you today, and I kind of wrote down how they addressed it. They wanted to transform the large, heavy, imposing wall that was more reminiscent of the side of an institutional building or a manufacturing structure into something that tells a story about the building setting and how it's transforming into something else. So, as Mr. Berry mentioned, we did rename the project Falls at Roland Park to recognize the neighborhood context of the site, as well as the historical context of the Jones Falls, just running 100 feet away from the property below 83. So the design team thoughtfully sought to integrate both of those features into what they were proposing for the outside, and they achieved that. And what is unfortunately not conveyed as well on the pictures that are presented to you today, this grid here, these are fins that are nestled into the grid, and each fin has a wave structure, and they all undulate differently, so that when you're driving across it, there's some movement, and it gives you the feel, even though it's a static sculpture, there's some movement, and that ties into the river, to the Jones Falls runs. So we were very happy with the design efforts that tied all of that together. And then there were going to be some LED elements that are integrated into that at night, that just very few, that just kind of create the look of kind of moonlight catching ripples of stream water flowing. And the words "the falls," as they're proposed here in our design, really anchor the building by connecting the identity of the structure to the facade and creating a welcoming waypoint for our residents and guests, and really to help complete the transformation of that ugly building that's been there forever to something that looks fresh and different, and has an artistic element, and not just a commercial sign that you see on several hotels or other buildings. So that's a story behind what we are setting out to accomplish here. Thank you for your time.
Okay. So if I got this right, so you've given us this drawing. So it says south elevation. So this faces the Northern Parkway.
That's correct.
Side.
That's correct.
The intersection of Falls and Northern Parkway. Correct.
All right. And so what you are calling the sign is this lettering.
That's right.
That's here.
That's attached to the artwork that Mr. Fry explained.
Okay, and so the remainder is a art display.
That's correct. And it's under construction and has been permitted, as I gave you, as well as the sort of the incidental lighting that is going to be as part of that structure. It's already been permitted. So today what I was proposing, because you have 3 members, is to, because we want to start the fabrication of the sign itself, the letters, and we would like to at least have ask for a board's approval of the sign as, again, a replacement of a non-conforming sign. It's not a variance per se. It's a replacement. It's it's 38 square feet versus 240 square feet that's there. The lighting, we have several options that I've talked to the president of North Roland Park about, and we think in the next 2 weeks, if we are likely to come up with either no lighting or some lighting, which is exactly what we applied for, which are LED lights inside the individual letters that are be of a lumens that they find acceptable, or some other kind of lighting that relates to essentially, and we would come back, and ideally we would be with their support on the consent agenda, and hopefully we would resolve that in 2 weeks.
So what's the square footage of the sign, or the letters at this point?
About 38 square feet.
Our data sheet is saying it's 107.
Well, I think what they did and what planning did, and this, if you look at an 8.5 by 11, and without looking at shop drawings, you would think of it as the framework, and that's what they did. They took the whole framework of the sign, and if you look in Transform Baltimore, actually the structural elements of a sign are exempted from it. In some cases, you might be able to do that and calculate the square footage of the sign, but in this case, the artwork has been already under construction, the letters will be applied to it, so they clearly are individual letters. And we've explained that to planning. That may have been a reason why they, without speaking for them, changed their opinion, because at one point they were saying it was like 400 some square feet or whatever, so.
And so what are the dimensions of the letters?
Well, they vary.
Well, yes, I see that the part that says "the" is smaller lettering.
We
and
had,
falls
I
is-
believe the breakdown, if I'm not mistaken, was, let's see if we have that, maybe 10 square feet for the, and another 20, we haven't exactly, from the sign company, we asked them to measure that.
And
Okay.
How big are, how tall is, how big is the F?
The F is, let's see, I have that here, sorry. I do have that. The F looks to be about 4 feet at the,
about 4 feet.
4 feet on the vertical.
4 by,
4 by maybe 2, 1.5 to 2, so.
All right, and you said the portion was,
Yeah,
It was about 2 feet by 1.
no, I thought you said that the portion
Was
was
about
like
10
10 square feet?
Oh, the entire, I thought just
Yeah.
Okay. So that's like 10 square feet?
yes.
I would say about, yeah.
Yeah, let me see what the sign company did, sorry. Thought I had that printed out for you. Okay. Okay, actually, the is 4.5 square feet, and the falls totals 33.32 square feet, so it's a total of 37.82 square feet. This is from the sign company that
Okay.
is fabricating it.
All right.
That's eliminated.
Yeah.
So it's a total of 37 square feet.
So, and I point out that the old zoning code under R9, we were allowed to have a 36-foot sign by right without any reference to how tall it would be.
Mhm.
This has been under design and integrated with the artist for some time, just wasn't completed enough to apply under that code.
Okay.
The structure, the one that already has a permit, they're lit at night by like neon? or
Neon,
something? Does that fluctuate at all?
I don't think so. I mean,
No, they're
they're
static.
just static.
So
And it's an LED rope.
It doesn't like,
No message or anything.
And it,
doesn't look like water that
no,
fluctuates?
it doesn't. It was a thought, but then when we
I mean, I think it's neat, but I
it-
don't know if it would.
yeah, we can't do that under the current plan, so.
If that would attract attention, it may meet the
Correct.
definition of the sign.
So, yeah, it's just this white light does not change, because we thought about maybe purple for ravens and orange for, you know, but
Well, yeah.
we decided against
The
that.
permit that was issued was based on drawings submitted that showed exactly what you have here.
Mhm.
And that was
It
approved
was-
and issued.
Yeah, And along with these stamped drawings that identifies the strips here.
So I assume that
as the LED lights.
whoever reviewed that did not consider that a sign.
No, there was no referral or indication.
Okay.
And again,
Yeah,
two
looking
separate
at the
permits.
definition of sign under the code, it doesn't meet the definition of a sign.
Okay. Want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Again, I speak for Shelley Center, North Roland Park. Their board has no objection to the sign in and of itself. They really objected to the illumination of the existing sign, which is garish and quite bright, and as well as, so we said we would sit down with them, and I think within a week, we'll probably have a resolution as to what kind of lighting we would, and then, so if we could get some approval today and be on your agenda in 2 weeks, and hopefully that would be, with their support, we'd have a resolution as to the lighting.
What sort of approval are you looking for us? It sounds like you want some.
Well, we would like the approval to change the non-conforming sign to the new sign.
Okay.
And that would be, and we'll withdraw voluntarily the request for the initial illumination, which was an internally illuminated sign. And then what we will discuss that with North Roland Park as well as other options, which Mr. Fry and I talked about, which would be more indirect illumination, but not like the spotlight that was on the existing sign. It would be something more artistic.
Yeah, as I understand it, you're basically looking for approval of the lettering over top of the artwork that you've already got a permit for. The lettering would not be illuminated, and you'll come back once you've come up with a plan for illumination, but that's not part of what you're proposing currently.
That's right. And I'm sorry for this coming back the last minute, but
No, it's
we
fine.
just got the North Roland Park letter, I think, email today, and we're willing to sit down with them. And
It sounds like you're putting in the effort to try to get something resolved with the community, so that's always commendable.
Thank you.
Anything else, John?
Nope.
Questions? Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yep. And with that, we're off the record.
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't get your name for the record. Thank you, sir. And you guys do the decisions on the record?
Good
No, you
question.
did, then you didn't, and then it's been.
Yeah, what have we been doing with that?
What?
With our, deliberations and decisions?
We generally don't record them.
Those. Yeah.
So I'm done?
Yep.
Although the camera does.
Yes, the camera still records.
Yeah.
They're not in the transcripts you guys get from us.
That's correct. Yep.
That's what I thought.
Thank you.
But you do have to stay here till 5.
All right, I'm on the clock, you can talk for me. Good old Bill.
Am I remembering correctly, Bryson had a baby on the way?
He did, that's why I'm here. Maybe, I
Baby
guess,
Bryson.
yeah, it was, I guess, last Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, it was
The
the
liquor board
last day
sat,
that we were here,
is
yeah.
when, is when they had,
Oh, okay.
had it reduced. So he's home, getting zero sleep.
He's getting absolutely no sympathy here.
Nope, nope, I got a 2-year-old and a
Been there, done that. What did he have, by the way?
you know what, I don't even know.
Okay.
We're like 2 ships passing in the night. I see
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Christmas party, and that's and I've known the guy since middle school.
Okay. Yes. All right. I had 2. It was Belvedere Avenue, and sort of what to do with the. That's right. I did want to look at the code on that. All right, and whether or not that fit in the definition of neighborhood commercial. 14,328.
Yeah, I had that, and I had same thing with Fulton.
I think Fulton's
Yeah,
clearly.
Fulton's a little different, yeah.
Okay.
Because that space has always been
Commercial.
non-residential.
Residential.
Right.
But,
If you read the definition, it's not really clear.
No, it's not.
I could read that to say if any part of whose use was non-residential, then the building can be used under this.
Now, I just wanted to, I'm concerned because I don't want, if we accept that as a reasonable thing, we don't want to then treat somebody else differently when they come in and say, since it was previously a dwelling, it doesn't count towards the definition of a.
Well, the concern I have is that you may have a building like the one here on Roland and Falls, where one portion was not built for residential use, and somebody says, well, I want the whole thing to be commercial under the.
There's a cafe in the bottom of.
Yeah, they have some non-conforming commercial uses in the building.
Limited to reuse of existing buildings that were originally constructed and used for.
We can find a bunch of those.
Well, planning didn't.
Doesn't speak to the issue of expansion of the.
Correct.
And planning had no objection to what they're doing. Does that mean they're okay with that? In this case, I don't see any problems. Okay, I'm not looking to make trouble, so I'll be quiet.
Limited to reuse of existing buildings that were originally constructed and used for non-residential uses. Doesn't say that the entire building had to be used for a non-residential use.
That's, the part that's really not written very well. And I think.
Well, as I understand the purpose behind these, they were really intended for sort of those corner store uses.
Right.
So you've got easy example would be the former Rollo's building, which is right there on Fort and Lawrence. And there was the diner that was on the first floor, and then there was the apartment, and there's an apartment that's on top of it. That, as I understand it, is what that was going for, and try to retain those sort of neighborhood corner store type uses without folks having to come back for non-conforming uses that might have been lost some time ago.
And typically, those uses years ago were commercial on the first floor.
Yes.
And then not in residential on the upper floors.
Yes.
Can we just add an amendment that all of those corner buildings have to be diners?
Is it non-residential use?
Is that the same owner who moved across the street?
Hmm?
Is that the same owner who moved across the street into the strip?
Yeah, well, it's not Rollo, but yeah,
It's the south.
yes, Southside Diner.
Is that the same guy?
Yes.
Very good club sandwich.
All right. So he's expanding, or she rather is expanding into the entirety of so it's basically taking that.
Second floor. And making
And taking away, and so now it's making the entire building, sort of expanding the former non-conformance.
And I'm sure there's many cases where that makes sense. It takes away the potential of just having a vacant space on the second floor. And depending which way the board believes, it may end up getting clarified in future amendments to the code.
No, I mean, yes, in this circumstance, you're not requiring the entirety of the building to then be used for the commercial use. It's restoring the former non-conforming use, which a lot of times, maybe had gone vacant for some time, et cetera, and allowing those uses to come back. And sort of it's up to the property owner to decide how much they want to use for the commercial and how much they want to use for the residential. So it's really kind of making it a bit more flexible, which I think was the purpose behind the code, though maybe not specifically with this kind of, with this circumstance in mind, but yeah, I think that that's sort of the most flexible view of the code.
I agree.
You can always put the residents back whenever they want.
That's right.
If it changes.
That's right. Because they'll always be able to go back to that. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay, and now we have Ford Avenue. So it's a 4-foot height variance. Yeah. I asked him about what's the hardship of, being, if you forego it, and he talked about really what the cause of the loss was, not really sort of what the hardship would be. Looking at it, really what sort of expands it beyond what we traditionally seen in these kind of things. I do understand that it was on what used to be the commercial portion of Ford Avenue, and so it was governed by FAR and height restrictions, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I think with the formally the way this kind of stuff ran is that you're able to do it, but you couldn't put you couldn't convert it into living space, have the wet bar and all that kind of stuff. And now they're looking to sort of squeeze all that in there. I'm not sure that we want to declare it's open season for that.
Yeah, I can live with that. I mean, are you gonna restrict the 4th floor to non-living space?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I can live with that.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Yeah.
Was Fulton Avenue any issues at all?
No, I thought that one was pretty much fine. Because he was basically looking to, he's going to keep it the way that it had been.
Is it in the record that the community association was here before?
On that case, technically, I guess no, because it's, you can see, refiled it.
It's a big deal, but I
think the community, we had community support before. We just couldn't approve it because it was closed more than a year and it was non-conforming. But there was support before.
I'm just really surprised that they didn't show up today, which made me question whether it was posted or not. They said it was, so.
It was also, just so you know, the urban renewal plan prohibited a change of non-conforming use. Under the old code, it was a non-conforming use. The new code, it's conditional use. It's no longer restricted by the urban renewal plan, even though the urban renewal plan is still there. This is like the first case in that area, that urban renewal area, of this change in status.
That's kind of important.
No, I don't have any problem with it.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
All right. 2017-8, 352 East 25th Street was by consent. You said you guys did not have conditions with that one, right, Mark?
No, we did not offer.
Okay.
We have
But there was community
community
association
agreement that they have in the file.
Agreement. All right, 2017-165, 5800 Chemical Road was by consent with planning department conditions.
I'm sorry.
What's that?
For you.
2017-208, 1500 Pressman Street was by consent. 2017-209, 1901 North Charles Street was postponed. 2017-218, 2320 Mayfield Avenue was by consent with planning department conditions. 2017-230, 4216 Shannon Drive was postponed. 2017-246, 3537 West Belvedere Avenue. I'm a yes.
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 2017-249, 746 North Fulton Avenue. I'm a yes.
Yes.
2017-257 South Curley Street was a no-show and was not posted anyway. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe they told him about it, so he didn't show up. Whatever, we can just let him know. 2017-251, 1304 Andre Street was a no-show. That's weird. He normally shows up.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
2017-252, 500 to 502 South Wolf Street was postponed. 2017-254, 1000 through 1016 and 1018 South Highland Avenue was by consent. There were conditions with that? With planning department conditions. 2017-256, 212 East Ford Avenue. I'm a yes, but without living space, living area on the fourth floor, specifically no wet bar is shown, etc.
Yes.
Yes.
2017-257, 3419 through 21 and 3433 Old Frederick Road was by consent with planning department conditions. 2017-258, 1190 through 1192 West Northern Parkway. I'm a yes.
Yes.
2000. Oh.
I don't know what to do with that one. No, I'm just kidding. Yes.
17. That's 260, 2401 West Belvedere Avenue was by consent with planning department conditions.
There's one in every room.
Thank you for paying attention.
Thank you, see you.
You did get your attention now.
2017, that's 262, 304 South Duncan Street was by consent. Got my attention too. 2017, that's 263, 1411 Battery Avenue was a no-show. 2017-264, 3400 Royston Avenue was by consent. 2017-265, 400 through 402 North Milton Avenue was by consent. And 2017-267, 1743 Washington Street was postponed. Yes.
I'm going to be away.
At the ocean.
Except for David.
We're going to be in Barbados.
Oh, good for you.